today's world, it's easy to be surrounded by people, yet feel utterly invisible. You can be in a crowded room, surrounded by lively chatter and laughter, but still feel as though no one truly sees you for who you are. It's a strange and almost paradoxical feeling, one that many of us know all too well. We search for connection, for belonging, and yet find ourselves grappling with an overwhelming sense of isolation. Why does this happen? Why, despite all the social media, the parties, the endless interactions, do we sometimes feel so alone? Zen teachings offer us a profound answer. The problem lies not in our circumstances or the people around us, but in our approach to connection itself. Zen Buddhism tells us that true connection is not about being liked or admired. It's not about chasing approval or striving for superficial charm. Instead, real connection comes from something much deeper. It comes from resonance. Resonance is the ability to vibrate at the same frequency as someone else, to share a space of mutual understanding that transcends words and external validation. When we focus only on being liked or admired, we are placing our attention on the surface, on the things that others can see and measure. This is what Zen refers to as the love of lack, the yearning for connection that stems from a sense of incompleteness within ourselves. We seek others to fill the emptiness we feel, to patch up the cracks in our self-image, and to make us feel validated. But this kind of connection is fleeting. It's shallow, and like all things that are built on shaky foundations, it crumbles under the slightest pressure. We have all experienced it. A relationship that feels fulfilling at first, but eventually leaves us feeling drained, empty, and more disconnected than before. The reason: we were never truly connecting in the first place. We were just filling a void with something temporary, something that could never truly make us whole. The Zen path teaches us that in order to experience true connection, we must first look inward. We must cultivate the magnetic power of our authentic self without the need for external validation. Only when we are in tune with who we truly are, when we have cultivated our own inner beauty, can we attract the right people into our lives. But how do we cultivate this kind of inner authenticity? How do we move beyond the need for external validation and begin to resonate with others in a way that's deeper and more enduring? To answer these questions, let me tell you a story, one that comes from the teachings of Zen Buddhism. It's a simple story, yet one that holds the key to understanding the true nature of connection. Kenji was a humble gardener, but to those who knew him, he was much more than that. He was a master of his craft, a person whose gardens were known far and wide for their extraordinary beauty. His flower arrangements were works of art, each one more vibrant and life-filled than the last. People would travel from distant places just to gaze upon the flowers, marveling at the colors, the fragrances, and the way they seemed to breathe life into everything around them. However, there was one strange thing about Kenji's garden. In the center of the garden, there sat an antique ceramic vase, perfectly crafted, but conspicuously empty. The vase was beautiful, but it remained barren, untouched by the flowers that surrounded it. This puzzled many of Kenji's visitors, who often asked him why he didn't fill the vase with some of the beautiful flowers that bloomed so abundantly in his garden. Kenji would always respond with a serene smile and a simple statement, "The vase is waiting for the right flower." His answer was always delivered with such calmness and mystery that no one dared to question him further. But there was something about the vase, something about the way it stood there, empty, that seemed to hold an important lesson. One day, a young student, eager to learn the secrets of Kenji's gardening, asked him again, "Master, surely you have flowers that would complement this vase. Why do you leave it empty?" Kenji led her to the vase and asked her to look closely. "What do you see?" he asked. The student examined the vase carefully, noting its flawless shape, its smooth curves, and its intricate design. "I see emptiness," she said, "a beautiful form, but lacking in content." Kenji nodded and smiled. "Exactly," he said. "The vase is not seeking a flower to complete it. It is waiting for a flower that reflects its own inner essence, a flower that embodies simplicity, elegance, and a quiet strength." The student was perplexed. "But surely," she said, "there must be a flower that will fit it perfectly." Kenji took a deep breath and explained, "The vase represents a person's inner self. The flowers represent the people we attract into our lives. Some people are like empty vases, constantly seeking external validation to fill their void. They chase after relationships, hoping to find someone who will make them feel whole. But true connection, true love, arises when we cultivate our own inner beauty. When we are whole within ourselves, we attract those who resonate with our authentic selves. The vase waits for a flower that embodies what it already is." The student looked at the vase once more, this time seeing it in a new light. It wasn't a simple, empty object. It was a symbol of the self, of the quiet power that comes from being complete in oneself. Kenji's lesson was a powerful one, and it was one that extended far beyond the realm of gardening. The story of the vase speaks to the very heart of Zen Buddhism, where the focus is not on filling an empty space with external validation, but on finding the beauty and completeness within. When we are at peace with ourselves, when we are truly authentic, we will naturally attract the right people, those who resonate with us at the deepest level. But how many of us are truly like the vase? How many of us go through life desperately seeking the perfect flower, whether in relationships, friendships, or professional collaborations, believing that someone else will complete us? Zen teaches us that this quest for external completion is not only misguided, but also harmful. It keeps us trapped in a cycle of dependence, constantly seeking to fill a void that only we can fill. The vase doesn't need a flower to be beautiful. It is beautiful in its emptiness, in its wholeness, and so too, we are complete within ourselves, without the need for anyone else to define us. The story of Kenji and the vase challenges us to look inward. It encourages us to reflect on our own lives and ask ourselves, are we constantly chasing after people, situations, or achievements to fill the emptiness inside? Or are we learning to cultivate the beauty of our own authentic selves, knowing that we are already whole, already complete, just as we are? The student left Kenji's garden with a deep sense of contemplation. The image of the vase sitting serenely in the middle of the garden, began to occupy her thoughts. She realized that Kenji's teachings were not just about gardening, but about something much deeper, something about life itself. The vase, with its emptiness, was not a symbol of a lack, but of potential. It was a reminder that we don't need others to fill the space inside us. We only need to recognize our own completeness. Kenji's explanation about the vase and the flowers was simple, yet profound. The vase was not waiting for any random flower. It was waiting for the flower that reflected its own essence. The true beauty of the vase came from its ability to stand on its own, unfilled, yet full of potential. Similarly, true connection does not come from finding someone who fills our perceived void. It comes from meeting others who resonate with us at the deepest level of authenticity. But understanding this truth is not always easy. In a world that encourages constant comparison, competition, and the pursuit of perfection, it can be difficult to truly believe that we are enough as we are. Society constantly tells us that we must be better, do more, have more, whether it's a better job, a better relationship, or a better version of ourselves. The pressure to conform to these standards can make us feel incomplete, and in our search for validation, we may start seeking others to complete us. This is the essence of the love of lack that Zen teaches. When we approach relationships or friendships with the belief that we need someone to fill a void within us, we are starting from a place of emptiness, not wholeness. We are looking for something or someone to make us feel complete, and yet no one can truly fill that void. The relationships we seek from this place are often unstable because they are built on a foundation of need, rather than a foundation of mutual resonance and authenticity. Imagine trying to force a flower into a vase that isn't meant for it. The flower might fit temporarily, but it won't last. The same goes for relationships that are based on need. They may appear to thrive at first, but over time, they begin to wither and fade because they lack the true foundation of connection. The vase, waiting patiently for the right flower, represents the wisdom of allowing relationships to form naturally, based on mutual respect, authenticity, and shared values, not on the desire to fill a void. In Zen, the emphasis is always on cultivating the self, on looking inward and finding completeness within. When we truly know and accept ourselves, we no longer need others to define us. We become like the vase, ready to attract only the flowers that truly resonate with us, rather than filling ourselves with random blooms that come and go. But this requires deep self-awareness, and most of us are often too busy looking outside ourselves to notice what is already within. We look for validation in others, whether through likes on social media, compliments from colleagues, or approval from loved ones. While these forms of validation may provide temporary relief, they do not bring true fulfillment. True fulfillment arises from knowing and embracing who we truly are, without the need for others to mirror that back to us. Zen wisdom teaches us that we are already complete as we are. We are like the vase, beautiful and whole, even in our emptiness. It's only when we stop seeking to be filled by others that we begin to understand the depth of our own potential. Only then can we form genuine connections rooted in authenticity, that truly nourish and sustain us. True connection, according to Zen, comes not from the need for someone to fill a void, but from the resonance of two authentic beings meeting in a place of mutual understanding. Just as Kenji's vase does not seek to be completed by any random flower, we too must learn to attract the right people by first cultivating our own inner beauty. Only then can we experience the deep, fulfilling connections we truly long for. As the student reflected on this lesson, she realized that her life had been filled with relationships that were based on a sense of lack, relationships that had left her feeling drained and unfulfilled. She had always sought validation from others, hoping that someone would fill the emptiness inside her. But Kenji's teachings were beginning to change her perspective. She could see now that true love, whether in friendships, romantic relationships, or professional collaborations, arises not from the need to fill a void, but from the natural resonance between two people who are whole in themselves. The student returned to the garden the next day, sitting quietly before the empty vase. She understood now. The vase was not a symbol of something missing. It was a symbol of something full, something complete. She felt a sense of peace wash over her as she realized that, like the vase, she too was complete, with all of her imperfections, her flaws, and her strengths. The teachings of Zen often seem paradoxical at first. At the core of Zen, we are taught that our desire for fulfillment, whether through relationships, achievements, or possessions, arises from a deep-seated belief that we are somehow incomplete. We feel a sense of lack within ourselves, a void that we are desperate to fill. Yet, Zen challenges us by asking, can we embrace this feeling of emptiness without rushing to fill it? Can we see the emptiness as a space of potential rather than a flaw that needs to be corrected? The love of lack is seductive because it promises us the illusion of completion. We've all experienced it at some point, those moments when we believe that finding the right person, the perfect job, or the ideal situation will finally make us feel whole. It feels like the solution to all our problems is just within reach. If only we could find someone who truly understands us, someone who fills the void within, everything would be perfect. But Zen teaches us that this belief is a trap. The love of lack creates an endless cycle of seeking and dissatisfaction. We constantly chase after people or experiences, hoping that they will complete us. And yet, when we finally attain what we thought we wanted, we are often left feeling just as empty as before. The void remains, because the void is not something that can be filled by external sources. It is a reflection of our internal beliefs about ourselves that we are incomplete and must seek others to feel whole. This illusion of completion can be seen in many aspects of our lives. In relationships, it manifests as the constant search for a partner who can fulfill all our needs, who can make us feel loved, validated, and whole. In friendships, it shows up as the desire for others to offer us the attention and care we feel we deserve. In our professional lives, it manifests as the pursuit of success and recognition, hoping that a title, a promotion, or external praise will finally make us feel significant. The problem with the love of lack is that it places the responsibility for our fulfillment outside ourselves. We begin to see our happiness as something that depends on others, on how they treat us, on what they give us, and on how they validate our worth. But Zen teaches us that true happiness cannot come from external sources. It comes from within, from the cultivation of our own inner peace and wisdom. Kenji's teachings about the vase are a perfect example of this principle. The vase, as he explained, does not seek to be filled by just any flower. It waits for the one flower that reflects its own essence, that resonates with its true nature. In the same way, we must learn to cultivate our own essence, our own authenticity, so that we attract people who resonate with us at a deep, genuine level, not because we need them to complete us, but because we are already complete within ourselves. The love of lack may feel comforting at first, but it is ultimately unsustainable. It is based on a false belief that we are not enough as we are, and that someone else must fill the gap. This belief keeps us trapped in a cycle of dependency and dissatisfaction. Zen encourages us to step off this cycle and embrace the fullness of our own being. When we stop seeking others to fill our voids, we begin to experience true connection. Connection based on mutual resonance and shared authenticity, not need. This realization is not always easy. It requires us to confront the parts of ourselves that we have long believed to be incomplete or inadequate. It asks us to look within and recognize that our true worth is not determined by what others think of us or by how much we can provide for others. Our worth is inherent simply because we exist. Consider the people you are drawn to. Are you attracted to them because they make you feel better about yourself? Because they provide something you believe you are lacking? Or are you drawn to them because you recognize a shared spirit, a common value, a resonance that goes beyond the superficial? The love of lack leads us to seek others who can fill our perceived voids. But the love of recognition, as Zen teaches, is about recognizing our shared humanity, our shared essence. It's about seeing others for who they truly are, rather than for what they can provide us. True connection, according to Zen, comes when we are no longer seeking to fill a void within ourselves. It comes when we are complete within our own being, when we no longer need others to validate us or complete us. Only then can we truly connect with others, not from a place of need, but from a place of mutual respect, authenticity, and shared understanding. In a sense, the love of lack is a reflection of our own inner struggle. It is the belief that we are incomplete, that we are missing something essential. But Zen challenges us to move beyond this belief. It asks us to recognize that the void we feel is not something to be filled by others, but something to be embraced and understood. When we embrace our own emptiness, not as a flaw, but as a space for growth and potential, we begin to cultivate the magnetic power of our authentic selves. And when we do that, we begin to attract the relationships and connections that are truly aligned with our deepest essence. Zen teachings offer us a vision of connection that is grounded not in need, but in recognition, while the love of lack is based on seeking others to fill a void within us. The love of recognition arises from seeing others for who they truly are. It is about recognizing shared values, complementary energies, and a mutual understanding that transcends superficial attraction or approval. This deeper connection is often difficult to find in a world that encourages us to seek validation from external sources. We are conditioned to chase after approval, whether it's through the number of likes on a social media post, the praise we receive at work, or the attention we get in romantic relationships. The pressure to constantly present our best selves, to conform to societal standards of success and beauty, can make it easy to forget that the most meaningful connections come from recognizing the authentic essence in others and allowing others to do the same with us. The love of recognition is not about finding someone who makes us feel better about ourselves. It's not about finding someone who fills the gaps or voids in our lives. Rather, it's about meeting another person who resonates with us on a deeper level. Someone who sees us for who we truly are and appreciates us in our entirety. This kind of connection is built on shared values, mutual respect, and a profound understanding that is not dependent on external validation. One of the most powerful expressions of the love of recognition is when we meet someone who allows us to be our authentic selves without fear of judgment or criticism. These are the relationships that feel effortless, where we don't have to pretend to be someone we're not. We can simply be who we are, flaws and all, and still feel accepted, valued, and understood. Consider the story of Sarah and Mark, two colleagues working in a corporate environment. At first glance, Mark seemed out of place. He was talented and brilliant, yet he always wore mismatched socks, a small, seemingly insignificant detail that others often found odd. At first, Sarah, like many of her colleagues, thought the mismatched socks were unprofessional, perhaps even a little eccentric. But as she spent more time with Mark, she began to understand that his choice of socks was not a statement of rebellion or carelessness. Instead, it was an expression of his individuality, a subtle act of defiance against the pressure to conform to a rigid, one-size-fits-all standard of professionalism. Mark didn't apologize for his mismatched socks. He didn't try to hide them or explain them away. He simply owned his individuality, and in doing so, he sent a quiet message to those around him. It's okay to be different. It's okay to embrace your uniqueness, even in a world that often values conformity over individuality. As Sarah observed Mark's authenticity, something remarkable happened. She noticed that, over time, several other colleagues had also started wearing mismatched socks. It became a silent show of solidarity, a shared acknowledgement of the power of individuality. It was a small act, but it had a profound effect on the atmosphere in the office. The environment became lighter, more human, as people began to feel that they could express themselves without fear of judgment. In this story, Mark's mismatched socks are not just a fashion choice. They symbolize the freedom that comes with embracing one's true self. When we allow ourselves to be authentic, to show up in the world as our true selves, we invite others to do the same. The connection that forms in such a space is not based on approval or validation. It's based on mutual recognition, a shared understanding that we are both unique and valuable in our own right. The love of recognition is about seeing others not as instruments to fill our needs, but as individuals with their own unique essence. It's about recognizing the shared spirit in others, the qualities that resonate with our own. When we meet people who allow us to be our true selves, we are more likely to feel a sense of connection that is deep, meaningful, and enduring. These connections are not based on external validation, but on a recognition of shared values, experiences, and aspirations. In the case of Sarah and Mark, the mismatched socks became a symbol of authenticity, a reminder that true connection comes from being genuine, not from conforming to societal standards or expectations. The moment Sarah saw beyond the surface of Mark's mismatched socks and understood the deeper meaning behind them, she experienced a profound shift. She realized that the relationships that truly matter are not those that require us to hide parts of ourselves, but those that celebrate our uniqueness. When we cultivate the love of recognition, we begin to attract relationships that are based on authenticity and mutual respect. These relationships do not require us to put on a facade or chase after approval. Instead, they thrive on the shared recognition of each other's true selves. This kind of connection is rooted in understanding and acceptance, and it has the power to endure the test of time. The love of recognition is what allows us to meet others in their full humanity, without judgment or expectation. It is about recognizing the inherent worth in others, not because of what they can give us, but because of who they truly are. And in turn, it allows us to be recognized for who we are, without needing to prove anything or seek validation. True connection, Zen teaches, is not about filling a void or seeking external approval. It is about recognizing and resonating with the authentic self, both our own and others. This kind of connection is powerful, lasting, and transformative because it is grounded in a shared understanding of what it means to be human. Zen Buddhism is filled with stories that use simple, natural events to convey deep philosophical truths. One such story involves a Zen monk and a butterfly, illustrating the delicate balance between compassion and the necessity of struggle for true growth. This story offers a profound insight into how we often misunderstand connection and growth, both in ourselves and others. One day, while walking in the monastery garden, a Zen monk came across a butterfly struggling to emerge from its chrysalis. It had been working for some time, using all its strength to break free from the confines of its cocoon. The monk, moved by compassion, knelt down and gently began to help the butterfly, carefully breaking open the chrysalis to speed its struggle. After a few moments, the butterfly emerged, but its wings were shriveled and weak. It fluttered its wings weakly, then fell to the ground, unable to fly. Other monks in the garden, noticing what had happened, immediately approached the monk and explained that his intervention had harmed the butterfly. The butterfly needed to struggle, they said. It is in the resistance, the effort to break free, that its wings develop the strength they need to fly. By removing that struggle, you have robbed it of the very process that would allow it to grow. The monk, realizing his mistake, bowed his head in understanding. His compassion, while well-intentioned, had prevented the butterfly from experiencing the natural struggle that was essential for its survival. The lesson was clear. Growth, whether physical, emotional, or spiritual, requires effort. It requires struggle. It cannot be bypassed or avoided. This story is a powerful metaphor for the way we approach relationships and connections. Often, we approach others with the intent to fix them, believing that our intervention will help them grow or heal. But the Zen story teaches us that this process cannot be rushed. Just as the butterfly needs its struggle to grow strong wings, so too do people need their own struggles and challenges to grow and evolve. When we step in to fix others, or when we expect others to fix us, we are robbing them or ourselves of the necessary experience that leads to true growth. In relationships, we often fall into the trap of thinking that if we can just find the right person, everything will fall into place. We seek someone who will fix us or make our lives better. Similarly, we may see ourselves as the one who can fix others, believing that by offering advice, support, or love, we can save someone else from their struggles. But as the butterfly teaches us, true growth is not about removing the struggle. It is about allowing the struggle to take place, recognizing that it is a necessary part of the process. The love of lack, our need to find someone to complete us, often leads us to misunderstand the nature of growth. We look for others to fill our emptiness, to make us feel whole. But in doing so, we avoid the very struggle that is required for us to grow stronger in relationships. This can create an unhealthy dynamic where one person is constantly fixing the other, or where both people are relying on each other to fill voids within themselves. But Zen teaches us that growth comes from within. The butterfly does not grow strong wings because someone helps it out of its chrysalis. It grows strong wings because it struggles, because it exerts the effort necessary to break free. Similarly, we must learn to embrace our struggles, to face them head on, and allow them to shape us into stronger, wiser individuals. It is only through this struggle that we are able to form connections that are based on mutual respect, understanding, and authenticity. The key to true connection, then, is not about finding someone to fix us or fix someone else. It is about allowing ourselves and others to go through the natural process of growth, even if that means experiencing discomfort or hardship. It is about recognizing that, just like the butterfly, we are all on our own journey of transformation. We cannot bypass the struggle, but we can support each other as we go through it. This insight is especially valuable in the context of relationships. How often do we try to fix others, believing that we have the answers to their problems? Or, conversely, how often do we look for someone to fix us, to solve the difficulties we are facing? Zen invites us to let go of these expectations, to recognize that the struggle itself is an essential part of the process. True connection comes not from fixing one another, but from allowing one another the space and freedom to grow and evolve. When we stop seeking to fix others or be fixed, we open the door to deeper, more authentic connections. These connections are based not on need or dependency, but on mutual respect for the process of growth. They are rooted in understanding that each person has their own path, their own struggles, and their own strengths. The love that arises from this understanding is not about filling a void or solving a problem. It is about resonating with another person's authentic self, flaws and all, and supporting them as they navigate their own journey. In this way, the story of the butterfly reminds us that true connection is not about rescuing someone or being rescued. It is about allowing each other the space to struggle, to grow, and to become the fullest expression of who we are. This understanding can transform the way we relate to others and, in turn, transform the relationships themselves. In the pursuit of connection, one of the most common traps we fall into is the desire to fix others. This impulse often arises from a place of good intentions, wanting to help, wanting to be a source of support or comfort for those we care about. Yet, Zen teaches us that this desire to fix others can be incredibly harmful, both to ourselves and to those we are trying to help. The trap of fixing others stems from a misunderstanding of what true connection requires. We may feel that if we can solve someone else's problems or offer advice that will make them better, we will forge a deeper bond. It seems logical. By helping someone grow, we create a stronger connection, right? But in reality, this desire to fix others often comes from a place of control and dependency, not love or compassion. Zen teachings emphasize that true connection arises when we see others for who they truly are, not as projects to be fixed, but as complete beings in their own right. When we approach others with the mindset that they need to be fixed, we are essentially saying that they are not enough as they are, that they require our intervention in order to be whole. This is a deeply disempowering belief, both for the person we are trying to help and for ourselves. Take, for example, a romantic relationship where one partner feels the need to fix the other. Perhaps they see their partner struggling with personal issues, and in their desire to help, they start offering advice, trying to change their partner's behavior or imposing their own solutions. At first, this may seem like a compassionate act, but over time, it can create a toxic dynamic. The person being fixed may feel disempowered, as if their partner sees them as broken or inadequate. Meanwhile, the person doing the fixing may become frustrated when their attempts to help don't lead to the desired outcomes. Zen encourages us to shift our perspective. Instead of trying to fix others, we must learn to simply be present with them. We must recognize that every person is on their own journey, with their own struggles and their own path to follow. Our role is not to fix them, but to support them as they navigate their struggles, and to offer a space where they can explore their own growth. In other words, we must allow people to be who they are, without attempting to change or fix them. This perspective is incredibly liberating. It removes the pressure to have all the answers or to constantly intervene. It allows us to simply be with someone, offering love, understanding, and presence, rather than attempting to solve their problems for them. When we stop trying to fix others, we can begin to form deeper connections based on acceptance, respect, and the mutual recognition of each person's journey. Of course, this doesn't mean we should never offer support or guidance when needed. There are times when our wisdom and experience can be valuable, when our insights can help someone gain clarity or perspective. But the key is to offer this guidance with humility, without the expectation that we are fixing the person or their problems. True connection comes from meeting others where they are, without the desire to change them. Consider the difference between a person who offers advice with the intention of fixing someone and a person who offers advice with the intention of helping the other person discover their own solutions. The former approach is rooted in the belief that the other person is incomplete or broken, while the latter approach is based on trust that the other person already has within them the wisdom and strength to overcome their challenges. In Zen, this is the key to true connection, recognizing the inherent wisdom and completeness of others, even when they are in the midst of struggle. When we stop trying to fix others, we also stop allowing others to fix us. This is another aspect of the Zen approach to connection. We often seek others to rescue us from our own struggles, believing that someone else's love, guidance, or intervention will make everything better. But as Zen teaches, true growth comes from within. Just as we must allow others to go through their own struggles, we must also allow ourselves to face our own challenges and find our own way. This doesn't mean we have to face everything alone. We all need support, love, and guidance from others. But the key is to approach relationships with a sense of mutual respect for each person's path. Instead of expecting someone to save us, we must recognize that we are already whole and capable of navigating our own struggles. And instead of attempting to fix others, we must allow them the space to grow and transform on their own terms. In relationships, this approach creates a sense of equality and mutual respect. It allows both parties to be authentic and vulnerable, without the pressure to meet unrealistic expectations or to fix one another. This kind of connection is powerful because it is rooted in the belief that both people are already whole and complete. They do not need to change for each other. They simply need to be present and accept each other as they are. The love of recognition, seeing others for who they truly are, allows us to form connections that are based on authenticity, not on the need to fix or be fixed. These connections are grounded in respect, understanding, and the recognition that every person is on their own unique journey. They offer space for growth, both individually and together. True connection, Zen teaches, comes from recognizing and accepting others as they are, without the desire to change them. It comes from seeing the inherent beauty in each person, not as a project to be fixed, but as a whole being with their own wisdom, strengths, and challenges. When we embrace this approach, we begin to experience the deep, lasting connections that arise from authentic love and mutual recognition. In our fast-paced world, instant gratification has become the norm. We expect everything to happen quickly, from receiving a reply to a message to satisfying our desires with a simple click or swipe. We've been conditioned to seek immediate results and quick fixes. This mentality, however, is at odds with the deeper teachings of Zen, which encourage patience, mindfulness, and acceptance of the natural rhythm of life. The pursuit of instant gratification often leads us to make superficial connections with others. We may chase after relationships or experiences that promise quick satisfaction, only to find ourselves empty once the novelty wears off. This pattern reflects the love of lack in its most seductive form. We seek external validation, thinking it will bring us lasting fulfillment, but it only provides temporary relief. Consider the way we often approach romantic relationships. In the early stages, everything feels exciting and new. We are drawn to someone, not necessarily because we truly understand them or because we resonate with their essence, but because they fulfill a need within us, a need for affection, attention, or validation. We might feel as though we found the missing piece of ourselves, the person who will complete us. But as time passes, the initial thrill fades, and we find ourselves left with the same emptiness we felt before. The person we were once so drawn to no longer satisfies the need we thought they would. And so, the cycle continues as we move on to the next relationship, the next fix, in the hopes that it will finally bring us lasting fulfillment. Zen teaches us that this desire for instant gratification is an illusion. True fulfillment does not come from fleeting experiences or external sources. It comes from within, from cultivating a deep sense of self-awareness and acceptance. When we stop seeking external validation to fill our emptiness, we can begin to experience true connection, not from a place of need, but from a place of mutual resonance. The story of the butterfly and the monk offers a powerful lesson in this regard. When the monk tried to intervene and help the butterfly escape its chrysalis, he believed he was offering a quick solution to the butterfly's struggle. But in doing so, he robbed the butterfly of its necessary struggle, the process that would allow it to grow strong wings and become a capable, independent creature. This story highlights the danger of seeking instant results without allowing time for natural growth. The butterfly needed the struggle, just as we need time and patience to develop the strength and resilience required for meaningful connections. Similarly, when we seek instant gratification in our relationships, we skip over the necessary steps of personal growth and mutual understanding. We look for quick fixes, whether it's a fleeting romantic connection or a superficial friendship, believing that they will bring us happiness. But true connection, like the butterfly's transformation, takes time and effort. It requires patience, vulnerability, and the willingness to face our own struggles. Zen teaches us to slow down, to embrace the present moment, and to trust in the natural flow of life. When we stop seeking quick fixes and instant results, we open ourselves up to deeper, more meaningful experiences. We learn to appreciate the journey, not just the destination. We begin to see that fulfillment does not come from external sources, but from cultivating our own inner peace and authenticity. This shift in perspective allows us to approach relationships with greater depth and understanding. Instead of rushing to find someone to fill our void or seeking constant validation, we learn to be content with who we are. We attract people into our lives who resonate with our authentic selves, not because we need them to complete us, but because we share a deep, mutual connection. The false promise of instant gratification keeps us trapped in a cycle of superficial connections and temporary fixes. But Zen offers us a different path, one that is rooted in patience, self-awareness, and the understanding that true connection takes time. When we stop chasing after the next quick fix, we make space for deeper, more lasting relationships that are built on authenticity and mutual respect. In relationships, whether romantic, platonic, or professional, we must learn to resist the temptation of instant gratification. We must be willing to invest the time and energy required to cultivate real, meaningful connections. These connections are not based on the need to fill a void or seek validation, but on the recognition of each other's true selves and the mutual respect that arises from understanding one another on a deeper level. Zen teaches us that fulfillment is not something that can be found outside of ourselves. It is something that arises from within when we cultivate a sense of inner peace and authenticity, when we stop seeking quick fixes and instead focus on nurturing our own growth. We begin to experience the kind of connection that is truly fulfilling. Connections that are rooted in mutual recognition and deep resonance. By letting go of the desire for instant gratification, we free ourselves from the cycle of seeking validation and external approval. We can begin to approach relationships with patience, humility, and authenticity, knowing that true connection is not something that can be rushed or forced. It is a process, one that requires time, effort, and a willingness to embrace the natural rhythms of life. When we embrace this process, we find that the connections we form are far more meaningful and fulfilling than anything we could have sought through instant gratification. These connections, built on mutual respect and understanding, have the power to transform our lives and help us grow into the fullest version of ourselves. In Zen philosophy, there is a fundamental teaching that goes against much of what modern society suggests. True happiness cannot be found outside of ourselves. It doesn't come from material possessions, external approval, or the validation of others. Instead, it comes from within by cultivating an inner sense of peace, wisdom, and acceptance. This concept is simple yet profound, and it has the power to transform not only our relationships, but our entire approach to life. The love of lack, the constant search for external validation, and the desire to fill the emptiness within keeps us trapped in a cycle of seeking happiness in all the wrong places. We think that if we can just acquire the right things, whether it's a beautiful home, the perfect job, or the perfect partner, then we will finally be happy. But Zen teaches us that these things, while nice to have, are not the source of true happiness. They are fleeting, temporary. True happiness comes from a deep sense of inner contentment, from being at peace with who we are, regardless of external circumstances. This doesn't mean that we should reject all external sources of joy. It simply means that we should not rely on them for our sense of fulfillment. We should not place our happiness in the hands of others or in things outside of ourselves. When we do, we give up our power to external forces and set ourselves up for disappointment, because no external source can provide the lasting satisfaction that we seek. Zen encourages us to turn inward, to look at ourselves with compassion and understanding, and to cultivate the qualities that bring us true happiness. When we learn to accept ourselves as we are imperfections, and all, we begin to experience a deep sense of peace and contentment. This inner peace is not dependent on what others think of us or on the circumstances of our lives. It is something that comes from knowing that we are enough just as we are. The path to true happiness involves accepting our flaws, our weaknesses, and our struggles, and embracing them as part of who we are. It means letting go of the need for perfection and instead finding joy in the present moment. Zen teaches us that life is not about achieving some perfect state of being, but about accepting the ebb and flow of life as it comes. Happiness, in this sense, is not a destination to reach, but a way of being, a state of mind that we cultivate each day. When we stop seeking happiness outside of ourselves, we free ourselves from the constant cycle of craving and dissatisfaction. We stop measuring our worth by external standards and begin to see ourselves as inherently valuable. True happiness comes from the understanding that we are already complete, already whole. In this very moment, we are not waiting for something to happen in the future to make us happy. We can choose to be happy right now by cultivating peace within ourselves and embracing life as it is. This shift in perspective has a profound impact on the way we relate to others. When we are at peace with ourselves, when we no longer need others to validate us or fill our emptiness, we are able to connect with others in a deeper, more authentic way. We no longer enter relationships seeking something from others. We enter them with an open heart, ready to share and receive love, respect, and understanding. Consider the story of a person who is constantly seeking approval from others. Perhaps they are always trying to please those around them, going out of their way to make others happy, but feeling empty inside because they are not truly accepted for who they are. They may feel that if they just try a little harder, if they just please others a little more, they will finally feel loved and validated. But the more they seek approval, the more they feel drained, disconnected, and unfulfilled. Now, imagine the same person, but this time, they have learned to accept themselves fully. They are no longer seeking validation from others because they already know their worth. They enter relationships not from a place of need, but from a place of strength and authenticity. Instead of constantly seeking approval, they engage with others from a place of mutual respect and understanding. This shift in perspective allows them to form deeper, more meaningful connections based on authenticity rather than on the need to be validated. Zen teaches us that we are already whole, already complete, even in our imperfections. We don't need anyone to complete us or make us feel worthy. Our worth comes from within, and when we recognize this, we stop seeking validation from others. We are free to be ourselves, to connect with others in a way that is genuine, honest, and fulfilling. True happiness, according to Zen, comes when we stop seeking happiness outside of ourselves and begin to cultivate it from within. It comes when we stop measuring our worth by external standards and start seeing ourselves as inherently valuable, just as we are. This inner peace and contentment are the foundation for meaningful relationships and deep, authentic connections. By embracing this truth, we begin to experience the kind of happiness that is not dependent on external circumstances, but on our ability to accept ourselves and our lives as they are. This happiness is enduring, not fleeting. It is rooted in the understanding that we are already complete, already enough, and that true fulfillment comes from within. Zen invites us to let go of the endless search for external validation and to turn inward, to cultivate a deep sense of self-acceptance and inner peace. When we do, we will find that the connections we form with others are more authentic, more fulfilling, and more lasting. True happiness comes from within, and once we realize this, we can begin to live with a sense of contentment and peace that no external force can ever take away. In the corporate world, appearances often speak louder than words. There is a certain expectation to conform, to dress a certain way, to act a certain way, and to present ourselves according to societal standards. This desire to fit in and be accepted is a common theme in many professional environments, where success is often measured by how closely we adhere to established norms. Yet, there are moments when the most profound connections arise, not from conformity, but from the courage to embrace authenticity, even in the smallest, most unexpected ways. This lesson is beautifully illustrated through the story of Sarah and Mark, two co-workers in a high-pressure corporate environment. Sarah, like most of her colleagues, was always dressed impeccably, her suit crisp, her shoes polished, her appearance in perfect alignment with the professional expectations of her workplace. In the world she inhabited, appearances mattered. Success was often defined by how well one could conform to the ideal of a polished, flawless persona. However, Mark was different. Despite his brilliance and the respect he commanded for his skills, he didn't adhere to the usual corporate dress code. He wore mismatched socks. At first, Sarah found it odd, perhaps even unprofessional, and she couldn't understand why someone so capable would deliberately choose to go against the grain in such a small yet noticeable way. It was as if he was making a statement, but Sarah couldn't quite place what it was. Yet, as she spent more time working alongside him, something began to shift in Sarah's perspective. She realized that Mark's mismatched socks were not a sign of carelessness or rebellion. They were a subtle act of self-expression. In a world where everyone seemed to be striving for the unattainable ideal of perfection, Mark had found a way to make a quiet yet powerful statement of individuality. He wore his mismatched socks not because he was trying to be different, but because he was comfortable in his own skin. He didn't apologize for his eccentricity. He simply owned it. Sarah began to admire this about Mark. his ability to embrace his own uniqueness, even in a world that often valued the conformity over individuality. What started as a simple observation of his quirky fashion choice evolved into a deeper understanding of who Mark truly was. His mismatched socks were not just a fashion statement, they were a symbol of his authenticity, a reminder that it's okay to be imperfect, to be different, and to stand out in a world that often values uniformity. As Sarah observed Mark's authenticity, something remarkable began to happen. She noticed that over time, more and more colleagues had started wearing mismatched socks. It wasn't an organized movement or a statement of rebellion. It was a quiet, organic shift, a sign of solidarity with Mark's act of individuality. The mismatched socks had become a symbol of something deeper, the freedom to be authentic, to express oneself without fear of judgment. They were a reminder that it's okay to let go of the pressure to conform, to show up in the world exactly as you are. This seemingly small act of wearing mismatched socks had a profound effect on the office atmosphere. The workplace became a little lighter, a little more human, as people started to embrace their own quirks and imperfections. Sarah, too, found herself letting go of the rigid expectations she had previously held about what was appropriate or professional. She realized that true professionalism wasn't about conforming to a set of standards. It was about being true to oneself, about embracing authenticity even in the smallest details. The story of Mark's mismatched socks is a powerful metaphor for the kind of connection Zen encourages us to seek in all aspects of our lives. True connection arises not from perfection or conformity, but from authenticity. When we allow ourselves to be real, to show up in the world exactly as we are, imperfections, quirks, and all, we create space for others to do the same. We form connections not based on the need for validation or approval, but on mutual recognition of each other's true selves. This is the essence of the love of recognition, which Zen teaches us to cultivate. It's about recognizing and appreciating others for who they truly are, not for how closely they align with societal expectations or external standards. It's about finding the beauty in individuality, in the small details that make each person unique. When we embrace authenticity in ourselves and in others, we create connections that are deep, meaningful, and lasting. Sarah's transformation, sparked by her growing admiration for Mark's authenticity, is a reminder that true connection is not about conforming to external standards of success or approval. It's about recognizing and appreciating the uniqueness of those around us, celebrating the quirks and imperfections that make them who they are. Just as the mismatched socks became a symbol of authenticity in Mark's case, we too can embrace the things that make us different and use them as a bridge to deeper, more genuine connections. In a world that often values perfection and conformity, the courage to be authentic, to show up as we truly are, is a radical act, but it is also one of the most powerful ways to create meaningful connections, both with ourselves and with others. When we stop trying to fit into predefined molds and instead embrace our true selves, we attract people who resonate with us on a deeper, more authentic level. This is the kind of connection that Zen teaches us to seek, not based on the need for approval, but based on the mutual recognition of each other's true essence. The love of recognition is about seeing beyond the surface, beyond the masks we wear and the roles we play, and recognizing the unique, authentic person beneath. It is in this recognition, in this acceptance, that true connection is born in our fast-paced, competitive world. The idea of authenticity is often overlooked, especially in professional environments. Success is frequently measured by how well we can conform to expectations, fit into established roles, and present ourselves as polished, ideal versions of who we think we should be. But Zen wisdom tells us that true success in life, whether in our personal or professional relationships, doesn't come from presenting a perfect facade. It comes from being authentic and true to ourselves. Sarah's realization about the power of authenticity in Mark's mismatched socks sparked a broader shift in her perspective about professional relationships. She began to see how much pressure she had been placing on herself to fit into a mold of what a successful professional woman should look and act like. She had always dressed meticulously, adhered to every unwritten rule about professionalism, and worked tirelessly to present herself as the epitome of competence. And yet, despite her success in many areas, something felt off. She had sacrificed parts of her true self in order to fit in, to be accepted, and to climb the professional ladder. As she observed Mark and the subtle yet powerful impact of his authenticity, Sarah started to question her approach to work and relationships. She realized that her professional relationships had often been built on the need to conform, to impress, and to be seen as the perfect colleague or boss. She had tried to be the ideal professional, believing that this would lead to success and meaningful connections. But the more she tried to fit into this mold, the more disconnected she felt from herself and from others. Mark's mismatched socks and the quiet rebellion they represented were a wake-up call. They were a reminder that the most powerful connections in the workplace don't come from trying to be perfect, but from being authentic. When we present ourselves as we truly are, without fear of judgment or rejection, we invite others to do the same. And it is in this mutual acceptance that true professional connections are formed connections that are not based on superficiality, but on shared values and mutual respect. This shift in perspective led Sarah to reevaluate her approach to her professional relationships. She began to ask herself, why had she been so focused on presenting a flawless image? Was it to gain respect from others? Or was it because she was afraid of showing any vulnerability or imperfection? And more importantly, did she value professional relationships that were based on this facade? Or did she long for deeper, more authentic connections? Zen teaches us that true success is not about external recognition or the approval of others. It is about aligning our professional life with our authentic self. When we can show up at work as our true selves, with all our quirks, imperfections, and unique strengths, we create a space for others to do the same. We form relationships that are not based on the need to impress, but on mutual recognition and understanding. In professional environments, authenticity is often seen as a vulnerability. We are told to keep personal feelings and weaknesses out of the workplace, to present ourselves as confident, competent, and in control at all times. But this pursuit of perfection creates a barrier to true connection. When we hide behind a professional mask, we miss the opportunity to connect with others on a deeper level. We may be respected for our achievements, but we are not truly seen for who we are. Sarah began to embrace this truth. She started to let go of the need to conform and to show up at work as her authentic self. She shared more about her personal interests, her values, and even her struggles. Instead of striving for perfection, she focused on bringing her whole self to the table. In doing so, she noticed a shift in her relationships with her colleagues. They began to open up more to her, sharing their own authentic selves, their own challenges, and their own vulnerabilities. The office environment became more human, more compassionate, and more collaborative. In Zen, authenticity is not just about being true to ourselves. It's also about being present with others. When we bring our full selves to our work, we are not just performing our roles. We are engaging with others in a meaningful way. We are contributing to an environment where people can express themselves freely without fear of judgment or criticism. This creates a sense of trust and respect, which is the foundation of any strong professional relationship. The power of authenticity in professional relationships is often underestimated. Many people believe that professionalism requires a carefully curated image, a persona that is polished and flawless. But Zen wisdom teaches us that true professionalism is not about perfection. It is about integrity, sincerity, and presence. It is about showing up as who we truly are and contributing to the workplace in a way that is aligned with our values and strengths. As Sarah embraced this shift, she found that her professional relationships grew stronger and more fulfilling. She no longer felt the pressure to conform to unrealistic standards or to present a perfect image. Instead, she focused on being authentic and on building relationships based on mutual respect, understanding, and shared goals. This approach allowed her to feel more connected to her colleagues, more engaged in her work, and more at peace with herself. Zen reminds us that the most meaningful connections in life, whether in our personal or professional lives, are those that are based on authenticity. When we stop pretending to be someone we are not, we open the door to deeper, more fulfilling relationships. These connections are not based on the need to impress or to be perfect, but on the recognition of each other's true selves in the workplace. This authenticity can lead to a more inclusive, supportive, and collaborative environment. When we embrace our own authenticity, we create space for others to do the same. And in doing so, we build connections that are not only professionally successful, but personally enriching as well. One of the most powerful lessons Zen teaches us is the value of vulnerability. In a world that often values strength, resilience, and self-sufficiency, vulnerability can seem like a weakness. We are taught to present ourselves as capable, independent, and unshakable, but Zen wisdom encourages us to embrace vulnerability, to see it not as a flaw, but as a source of connection, authenticity, and strength. Vulnerability is often misunderstood. It is not about exposing our weaknesses or seeking pity. Instead, it is about being open, honest, and authentic with others. It is the willingness to show up in the world as we truly are, without pretense or fear of judgment. Vulnerability is the act of allowing ourselves to be seen fully and completely in all our imperfect human glory. In relationships, vulnerability creates space for deep connection. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable with others, we invite them to do the same. We break down the walls that separate us and create an environment of mutual trust, understanding, and compassion. This is the essence of authentic connection, the willingness to be real with each other, to share our fears, our hopes, and our dreams, without fear of rejection or criticism. Sarah's journey toward embracing authenticity in her professional relationships was also a journey toward embracing vulnerability. As she let go of the need to present a perfect image, she started to show up in her workplace more authentically. She shared more about her personal experiences, her struggles, and her challenges. Instead of hiding behind the mask of professionalism, she allowed herself to be real, to express her true feelings and needs. At first, this felt uncomfortable. Sarah had been trained to keep her emotions and vulnerabilities private, especially in a professional setting. She feared that being open and vulnerable would make her seem weak or unprofessional. But as she started to let down her guard, she realized that vulnerability was not a weakness at all. It was a strength. By sharing her true self, she created stronger, more meaningful connections with her colleagues. They began to see her as a whole person, not just a colleague who could perform tasks and meet expectations. They saw her humanity, her struggles, and her triumphs, and they respected her even more for it. This shift in perspective allowed Sarah to build deeper, more authentic relationships at work. She no longer felt the need to hide behind a mask of perfection. Instead, she embraced the truth that everyone has vulnerabilities, everyone has struggles, and that it is through these shared experiences that we connect with others on a deeper level. Zen teaches us that vulnerability is an essential part of the human experience. It is not something to be feared or avoided, but something to be embraced. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we open the door to true connection. We allow others to see us for who we really are, without the filters or facades we often use to protect ourselves. And in turn, we invite others to do the same. This process of mutual vulnerability creates a profound sense of trust and understanding. It allows us to see each other not just as colleagues or acquaintances, but as fellow human beings with our own fears, dreams, and struggles. It is in this shared vulnerability that true empathy and compassion are born. In relationships, whether personal or professional, vulnerability is a key ingredient for deep, lasting connection. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we give others permission to do the same. This mutual openness fosters a sense of safety and trust, where both parties can share their true selves without fear of judgment or rejection. For Sarah, embracing vulnerability was a transformative experience. It allowed her to build stronger, more genuine relationships with her colleagues. It helped her feel more connected to herself and to others. And most importantly, it allowed her to embrace her imperfections and see them as a source of strength, not weakness. Zen teaches us that vulnerability is not something to be feared or avoided. It is an essential part of what makes us human. When we embrace vulnerability, we open ourselves to deeper, more authentic connections with others. We allow ourselves to be seen fully and completely, and in doing so, we create the space for others to do the same. This is the power of vulnerability. It creates connection. It fosters understanding. It allows us to move beyond the surface and into the heart of what it means to be human. When we stop hiding behind our masks and let ourselves be real with others, we create relationships that are grounded in trust, empathy, and mutual respect. True connection, Zen reminds us, comes from embracing our vulnerabilities, from allowing ourselves to be seen as we truly are. And when we embrace vulnerability, we invite others to do the same. This mutual openness creates the kind of relationships that are deep, meaningful, and enduring. There is an ancient Chinese proverb that tells of the bamboo and the pine tree. During a fierce winter storm, the pine tree stands tall and rigid, resisting the wind's force with all its might. Eventually, the relentless pressure causes the pine to snap. The bamboo, on the other hand, bends with the wind, swaying and yielding. Though battered by the storm, it survives, emerging from the tempest even more resilient than before. This simple but powerful story carries a profound lesson about the nature of strength and resilience. In the face of life's challenges, whether personal or professional, we often believe that strength lies in resistance. We think that if we stand firm, if we remain unyielding, we will survive whatever comes our way. But Zen teaches us that true strength is not found in rigidity. It is found in flexibility, in the ability to bend and adapt to the changing winds of life. The bamboo's resilience lies not in its ability to resist the storm, but in its willingness to bend with it. It doesn't try to fight the wind. It allows itself to move with it, to yield to the pressure, and in doing so, it becomes stronger, more flexible, and more capable of weathering future storms. The pine tree, by contrast, with its rigid resistance, breaks under the weight of the storm. Its strength, while seemingly unyielding, ultimately leads to its downfall. In our own lives, we often try to be like the pine tree. We strive to stand tall, to remain unshaken, and to present ourselves as strong and invulnerable. We resist change, fearing that bending or yielding will make us appear weak or compromised. But Zen teaches us that true strength lies in our ability to adapt, to be flexible in the face of life's challenges. Just like the bamboo, we must learn to bend without breaking, to allow ourselves to be flexible and open to life's ever-changing winds. This lesson is particularly relevant when it comes to relationships. Often, we approach relationships with a rigid mindset, expecting things to go a certain way or trying to control the outcomes. We may have fixed expectations about how others should behave, how a relationship should unfold or what we need from others in order to feel fulfilled. But these rigid expectations can create friction and resistance. When we try to control others or force a relationship to conform to our ideal, we risk breaking it. True connection in relationships comes not from rigid expectations, but from flexibility and acceptance. Just as the bamboo bends with the wind, we must learn to bend with the ebb and flow of relationships. We must be willing to yield to the needs of others, to compromise, and to adapt. This does not mean that we lose our sense of self or abandon our values. Rather, it means that we are open to change, willing to adjust our approach when necessary, and capable of navigating challenges with grace and resilience. Zen teaches that flexibility in relationships does not mean weakness. In fact, it requires a great deal of strength to remain flexible. It requires self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and the ability to embrace change without losing sight of who we are. Just as the bamboo does not break under pressure, we must learn to bend without losing our integrity, to adapt without compromising our values. This lesson also applies to our relationship with ourselves. Just as we must learn to be flexible with others, we must also learn to be flexible with ourselves. We often approach our own growth and personal development with a rigid mindset, expecting things to happen according to our own timeline or plan. But growth is not always linear. It is messy, unpredictable, and full of twists and turns. Zen teaches us to embrace this process, to bend with the flow of our own evolution, and to trust that we are always moving toward greater wisdom. Even when the path seems unclear, the bamboo's resilience comes from its ability to bend and adapt to the forces around it. It doesn't resist change, it flows with it. Similarly, we must learn to bend with the challenges and changes in our lives, trusting that our flexibility will make us stronger and more resilient. It is in our ability to adapt, to yield when necessary, and to remain grounded in our own truth that we find true strength in relationships, in our personal growth, and in the face of life's challenges. Zen teaches us that the key to lasting resilience is not in resistance, but in flexibility. When we can bend with the wind, we become more adaptable, more compassionate, and more capable of navigating whatever storms may come our way. Like the bamboo, we learn to bend without breaking, to grow stronger in the process, and to emerge from life's challenges more resilient than before. This lesson of the bamboo and the pine tree invites us to reflect on our own approach to life. Are we trying to stand rigid and unyielding in the face of challenges, or are we learning to bend with the wind, to flow with the changing circumstances around us? The bamboo teaches us that true strength lies in our ability to adapt, to be flexible, and to remain grounded in who we truly are, no matter what life throws our way. In a world where social media has become the window through which we present our lives to the world, the pressure to curate a perfect image has never been higher. Platforms like Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok constantly demand that we present the most polished, idealized version of ourselves, beautiful, successful, happy, and seemingly without flaws. We are taught to craft our lives like advertisements, showing only the highlights while hiding the struggles and vulnerabilities. But Zen wisdom teaches us that true connection and happiness come not from perfection, but from authenticity. This lesson was brought to life by the story of Anna, a social media influencer whose seemingly flawless life had captivated thousands of followers. Anna's Instagram was a carefully curated collection of picturesque photos, exotic vacations, glamorous outfits, and radiant smiles. She seemed to have it all: beauty, success, and a constant stream of admiration from her followers. On the surface, Anna was living the dream, but behind the scenes, she felt empty. She was constantly exhausted, afraid of losing the image she had worked so hard to create. Her life, despite its outward perfection, felt hollow. Anna had built her brand on the idea of an idealized lifestyle. She posted carefully staged photos of her perfect meals, perfect outfits, and perfect adventures. Her followers adored her, leaving comments praising her beauty and lifestyle. And Anna basked in the glow of their approval. But despite the likes, the comments, and the ever-growing number of followers, Anna felt increasingly disconnected from herself. She realized that she was no longer sharing her true self with the world. She was sharing a version of herself that was carefully crafted to meet others' expectations. One day, after a particularly stressful period, Anna decided to do something radically different. Instead of posting another flawless photo, she shared something real, something vulnerable. She posted an unfiltered, raw photo of herself, looking tired and stressed. Along with the photo, she shared a heartfelt caption about her struggles with anxiety, self-doubt, and the pressure to maintain a perfect image. She confessed that, despite her seemingly perfect life, she was often overwhelmed and uncertain, just like anyone else. Anna braced herself for the backlash. She expected her followers to be disappointed, perhaps even unfollow her, now that they saw a side of her that wasn't perfect. But the response she received was nothing like she had imagined. Her post went viral, and instead of criticism, Anna was met with an outpouring of support. Her followers shared their own struggles, offering words of encouragement and expressing their gratitude for Anna's honesty. Many praised her for breaking the illusion of perfection, for showing the world that it's okay to be vulnerable and imperfect. Anna's decision to embrace vulnerability and authenticity was a turning point in her career and in her life. She realized that the version of herself she had been sharing with the world was not her true self. It was a carefully curated image designed to meet others' expectations. But when she allowed herself to be vulnerable, when she showed the world her true, imperfect self, she found a deeper, more meaningful connection with her followers. She discovered that her most authentic self was far more magnetic than any carefully crafted image of perfection. In the wake of her post, Anna's follower count grew even more. But this time, the people who followed her were not just attracted to an idealized version of her life. They were drawn to her authenticity, her willingness to be real with them. They saw her as someone they could relate to, someone who was not afraid to show her flaws, to share her struggles, and to be imperfect. Zen teaches us that true connection is born from authenticity, not from presenting a perfect image. We are often conditioned to hide our vulnerabilities, to show only the best parts of ourselves, and to present an idealized version of who we are. But in doing so, we create a false sense of connection, one that is based on appearances rather than on the real, messy, beautiful truth of who we are. Anna's experience is a powerful reminder of the importance of embracing vulnerability and authenticity, especially in the digital age. In a world that is obsessed with perfection, the courage to be authentic is a radical act. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we create space for others to do the same. We break down the walls of illusion and create genuine, meaningful connections. In the process, we discover that our true selves, imperfect and vulnerable as they may be, are far more beautiful and magnetic than any polished image we could present. The love of recognition, as Zen teaches us, comes not from a perfect image, but from the authentic, imperfect essence of who we truly are. True connection arises when we stop trying to impress others with a false image and instead allow ourselves to be seen for who we really are. Anna's story teaches us that the most powerful connections come when we let go of the need to be perfect and allow ourselves to be vulnerable, real, and authentic. In relationships, whether personal, professional, or social, true connection is found in authenticity. It is about showing up as we are, flaws and all, and allowing others to do the same. When we let go of the need for perfection, we create space for deeper, more meaningful connections, and in the process, we discover that our authenticity is the most magnetic and powerful force of all. As we come to the final lesson of our journey together, we must confront one of the most profound truths Zen teaches us. The love we seek is not found in others, but in the depths of our own being. The connection we yearn for, the fulfillment we so often chase, is not something that can be found outside of ourselves. It lies within us, waiting to be uncovered, waiting to be embraced. True connection and lasting happiness are not dependent on others completing us, but on recognizing the wholeness we already possess. Zen teaches that the search for external validation, whether through relationships, achievements, or possessions, is a distraction from the deeper truth of who we are. When we look outside ourselves for fulfillment, we miss the opportunity to discover the peace and contentment that reside within us. The love we seek from others is not something we need to find or earn. It is something that already exists within us, waiting to be recognized. This concept is beautifully illustrated by the story of the silent wanderer within a metaphor for the journey of self-discovery and inner peace. The wanderer, like many of us, is constantly searching for something outside of themselves to fill the void they feel within. They travel far and wide, seeking the answers to life's questions in external experiences and relationships. Yet, despite all their efforts, they find no lasting satisfaction. They are constantly in search of something that will make them feel complete, but nothing seems to fill the emptiness. The wanderer's journey mirrors our own search for meaning and connection. We may seek love, approval, stigma, success, or recognition from others, believing that these things will bring us happiness. But, like the wanderer, we find that no matter how much we seek, we are left feeling unfulfilled. The reason for this is simple. We are looking in the wrong place. We are searching for something outside of ourselves to fill a void that only we can fill. Zen teaches us that true fulfillment comes not from seeking to complete ourselves through external sources, but from realizing that we are already whole. We are already complete. Even in our imperfections, the love and connection we seek are not found in the hands of others, but in the depths of our own being. When we recognize our own completeness, we stop seeking approval or validation from others. We stop looking for someone to complete us and instead begin to cultivate our own inner peace and contentment. This shift in perspective is transformative. When we stop seeking outside validation, we become free. We are no longer dependent on others to define our worth or fill our emptiness. We begin to see ourselves as complete, as already enough, and in this recognition, we are able to form genuine, authentic connections with others. Not because we need them to complete us, but because we recognize their inherent value and worth, just as we recognize our own. The silent wanderer's journey teaches us that the love and connection we seek are not found by searching outside of ourselves, but by turning inward. It is in the quiet moments of self-reflection, in the practice of mindfulness, and in the cultivation of inner peace that we find the love we have been searching for all along. When we embrace our own authenticity, when we accept ourselves fully, we attract relationships that resonate with our true selves. These connections are not based on need or dependency, but on mutual recognition and understanding. In relationships, this shift in perspective allows us to be more present, more compassionate, and more connected. We no longer enter relationships from a place of lack or need, but from a place of wholeness and self-acceptance. We are able to give and receive love freely, without the expectation that others must complete us or fulfill our desires. Instead, we recognize that we are already complete, and we seek a connection from a place of abundance, not emptiness. Zen reminds us that we are like the moon, radiant, whole, and complete, reflecting the light of our true selves onto the world. We do not need someone else to make us whole. We are already whole, and when we embrace this truth, we can connect with others in a way that is authentic, meaningful, and deeply fulfilling. Our relationships are not based on the need to fill a void, but on the recognition of each other's inherent value and completeness. The journey of self-discovery and inner peace is not always easy. It requires us to let go of old beliefs, to confront our fears and insecurities, and to embrace our true selves. But when we do, we find that the love and connection we have been seeking were always within us, waiting to be recognized. The silent wanderer, like all of us, is already complete, and when we realize this, we stop searching for fulfillment outside of ourselves, and we begin to experience the deep, lasting connection we have always longed for. As you reflect on this journey, remember that true connection is not about finding someone else to complete you. It is about recognizing that you are already complete, already whole, and that the love you seek is found in the depths of your own being. When you embrace this truth, you will find that the connections you form with others are based on mutual recognition, understanding, and respect. And in this recognition, you will experience the love and fulfillment that are already yours.